Hello, and happy Straturday, friends. Psyberry here with another Darkest Dungeon How to Use guide. I just want to say, real quick, thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit the like button and share this guide with a friend who will enjoy it. And if you feel like it, check me out on Patreon. Alright, well let's get to it. Today we're going to take a deep dive into how to play Senua. Let's see, Senua, the class, was released in March of 2020, and it was last updated in November of 2020. So it's been updated semi-recently. The canon name is obviously Senua, and she's a crossover from the Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice series. I can say series now because they're making a sequel. The credits, it was basically orchestrated to be created by Balgan Stonedrag. Acero Steel did the character art. Scorpiova Eden, I believe. It's all one word. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. Did the animation. Red Dye number 5 did the skill and trinket art. And Claire de Lune helped with the coding and scripting. So, you'll kind of notice with her that she's a very damage-focused class. We'll get really into that later. But for now, let's just dive into the base stats. This is not a level Resolve Level 0 version. I don't have one in this save file. So this is kind of middle of the road as far as her stats are considered. At Resolve Level 1, her HP is 24, and it goes up by 5 at each level, and to a max of 44 at Resolve Level 5. This is a slightly above average health pool. It's very close to like the Hellion or the Abomination. It's a little lower than that, but it's a decent health pool. Her dodge starts off at a 10 and moves to a 30. This is the above average of the normal tracking for dodge. It's the same that Grave Robber has, Highwayman, Hellion. Prada's normal. The speed is slightly below average. She starts at a 3 and moves to a 5 at max resolve, and that is, technically speaking, it's probably right about what average should be. But I'm considering a base speed of 4 as average. Her accuracy is normal. She's only got a lower accuracy here because of the rabies. And, yeah, this is normal compared to everybody else. The crit chance is actually pretty good. It'll start at a 5% and move to a 9% by max resolve. This is the same kind of crit scaling that the Hellion and Highwayman have. So it's one of the best by default. The damage, it is a little bit higher, just slightly higher than the typical backline damage. It's very comparable to like the Arbalist as far as damage classification goes. But keep in mind that is low statistically, but you'll see that she's going to do quite a lot more damage than it may seem at the offset. So let's take a look through her combat skills. She's got 4 attack skills, and then she's got 3 kind of unique and with their own references to her original game skills here, just for flavor. So let's start with number 1. The first skill is called Wild Strike. It is a melee attack with an accuracy base of 95, a crit modifier of 7%, and it does full damage. It will do an additional 25% damage against humans, and it will do an additional 10% damage for every 20 stress up to 80 that she has on her. It will activate Riposte on herself 70% of the time upon using this for 3 turns, and it will, for the next 3 turns, buff her accuracy by 7. The accuracy growth here goes up to a decent amount by max resolve. I think it starts at a plus 5% accuracy, I want to say, at base resolve. That could be inaccurate. Oh, and I skipped over that part entirely. It's usable from the first, second, and third rank, and only targets the front 2 ranks on the opposite side. The second ability is Mighty Blow. It is usable from the first and second rank, and it is usable targeting the first and second rank of the opponent. Has an accuracy base of 90, a damage modifier of plus 20%, and a crit modifier of 6. It also does an additional 25% damage versus humans, and has an additional 10% damage for every 20 stress up to 80. It will also activate Riposte, with a 50% chance this time, and will buff yourself 20% damage for the next, I believe this is also 3 turns. So you can see they're very comparable to each other, but the difference primarily is the damage the move itself does, sure. The buff changes and the percent chance to activate Riposte. Those are the main differences here. The third combat move is Kick. It is usable from the first or second rank, and it is usable to target the first or second rank of the opponent's side. It has an accuracy base of 95, a damage modifier of negative 67%, and a crit mod of plus 1%. Now, these stun and knockback here, where you see 0% base, mechanically, they have to be both listed, and so you'll see when it attacks that you will see both words trigger like they were attempted. But keep in mind, this is a if-then kind of statement. It will attempt to stun a target that is guarding someone, thus breaking the guard if it succeeds. And if that person is not guarding someone, it will instead try and move them, knock them back 2. So it's kind of a... this is also a reference to her in her original game series. She does a leaping kick to stagger and stun enemies. And it's a kind of a fun move. The fourth of her attack abilities is Stab. It is usable from the second or third rank, and can only target the first and second rank of the opposing side. It is also a melee attack, and it moves herself forward 1 space. Has an accuracy base of 100, a damage modifier of negative 20%, a crit modifier of plus 4%. It has armor piercing, and does an additional 10% damage for every 20 stress up to 80 on Senua. It will also activate Riposte with a 70% chance, and will buff herself plus 5% crit. I believe this buff is of a shorter duration than the other 2 on her first 2 attacks. I vaguely remember it being 1 round. That could be inaccurate. I will try to remember to use this when I show how she does in battle later. The first of her tech abilities, as I would call them, is Facetime. It is usable from the second, third, or fourth rank, and it increases the torch by 5, and her allies are inflicted with horror for 3 stress, a round for 3 rounds. She then buffs herself plus 15% protection, but buffs her other allies 10% damage. So basically she kind of takes a time out here to speak to the head of the decapitated head of her lover, and it's disconcerting. Causes horror on her allies, and basically makes her a little bit tougher to kill and makes the others strike more lethally. The next ability is Headcase. It is also usable from the second, third, or fourth rank, and it transfers horror on any of her allies to herself. targeting all enemies, it stealths them for 2 rounds, and all allies are also stealthed for 2 rounds. And she buffs herself for less crits received. And I believe this is for 3 rounds. I could be mistaken. So this is kind of an interesting tech ability. The fact that it causes stealth on your allies is undoubtedly a benefit, but the stealth on your enemies, that is a interesting twist to things. It also kind of fits the theming of her from her original game. So it's kind of nice. And her final combat skill is Focus. This is usable twice per battle. I'm not confident that it is twice per battle the entire time she's leveling up. I believe from First Resolve it might only be usable once. I could be mistaken. It is also usable from the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th rank. And what it does is it basically, like in her original game, she focuses to kind of draw clarity and gain power, gain an upper hand against whatever she's fighting. And it does kind of slow her surroundings and give you an edge. So in this game, it stuns all enemies, de-stealths all enemies, does the same thing to all your allies, and heals yourself for 2 HP. The HP healing is secondary, and it's never really all that high of a number. It's pretty low throughout the entire Resolve leveling. It doesn't say what the stun percent is, but I find that it is pretty effective at almost every level. But it's not so effective that you can't build a resistance on your own team with it. So keep in mind, if you want to use this, you can always equip trinkets or the like on your team members to gain resistance to the stun that she's going to be inflicting semi-regularly. And the fact that this hits every enemy, well, there's no other stun in the game that does that. The negative side of this is definitely stunning all your allies. So building a team that can get past that impediment, it makes a big difference, let's put it that way. So if you can bypass that negative, then it will actually give you a huge edge on your opponent. So you'll notice she has plenty of options. Like, you can more or less choose like 3 of these if you wanted, and maybe 1 ability of her tech kit. Usually, I will change her moveset throughout the dungeon, unless I am putting her in a party that can stress ramp her without her having to use Facetime. And then I will usually equip her with, a couple attacks depending on what rows she's going to be in. If you don't want her moving around, I think the best kit you can do is this. And then you either have the kick or you have a couple of options over here. This is probably something like what I'll run later. So let's just take a detour into our camping skills real quick. The first of our camping skills, Seeking Patterns. This is her talking to Druth from her original game, I believe his name was. It is a time cost 3 ability, and it will give her a plus 3% crit for 4 battles. It will add a 15% scouting chance for 4 battles, and a plus 20% trap disarm chance for 4 battles. This is kind of a useful tech move if you think, if you're not getting scouting chances as you would like, or you're not equipped to do such, you can kind of use this similar to like a Grave Robber, or I believe Houndmaster has a very versatile scouting camping skill as well. She's got that kind of useful tech going on right there. The second ability is Mother's Madness. This is obviously from her mother from the game, whose name I forget. But anyway, it is a time cost 2 ability, and it will reduce her stress by 40, but give her plus 15% stress received for the next 4 battles, and it will also increase the torch burn rate of your torches by 20% for presumably all battles. Because I think I've seen this parentheses before. I think that might be for the rest of the dungeon. So basically there's a trade-off here of just full-on removing a decent chunk of stress from her for only 2 time cost, but making it so that she will receive more stress in the next 4 battles. So it's kind of a cost-benefit weighing situation. Her third camping ability, Lover's Comfort. It is a time cost 1 ability. She's basically reassured by Dillion, her dead love. And what it does is it will increase her virtue chance by 5% for the next 4 battles. This is usable 3 times per camp. So if you think she's about to have an affliction test, and you want to stack the deck in your favor, get up to an extra 15% virtue chance, this is not a bad thing to do in the middle of a dungeon. If you are not considerably through the dungeon and you have quite a bit to go and she's close to stressed out, definitely worth a shot to hit Lover's Comfort here. At least 2 times. It's also worth mentioning that if you're gonna partake in something like this, it stacks rather well with trinkets that increase your virtue chance. I can't remember the ring of the trinket ring that'll add 25% to your virtue chance. It can stack with this rather nicely. That's an extra 40% just between the two. And the final camping skill is the Darkness. This is her father's memory. It is a time cost 4, and it will inflict 40 stress on herself. This is a good way to start her stress ramp, because 40 stress will give her an additional 20% to all of her sword attacks on the damage. It removes mortality debuffs, which I believe this is new as of the last update in November. I don't remember it being there the whole time. And it will give her 15% less stress received for the battles in the future. It'll also increase the torch burn rate by 50%. So if you happen to use... They don't work that well together, but if you used both of these, the torch burn rate would be insane. Just by the way. So, camping skills done. Let's see. What do I need to mention about this class? What do we need to know? Let's see. Riposte, specifically. Each of her riposte hits removes stealth from the target you hit. So that has a good functionality with Headcase here, because it stealths all the enemies, and it stealths all her allies. So when an enemy turn comes up, they're going to target someone, and if they can't target stealthed party members, they're going to hit Senua, who either 50% of the time or 70% of the time will riposte, removing stress from the target. Or, I'm sorry, removing stealth from the target. So, there's a lot of fusion here with her with her riposte tech and this move. It's usually why I take it with me almost all the time. And the other thing it does on riposte hit is it lowers the light of the area. It'll lower the light by, I think, somewhere around 3 or 4. So it has one, stylistically, it fits very much. She's terrified of the dark in the game, and it basically sets off all of the torments that meet her. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. As far as party compositions go, she has a lot of good synthesis with other allies that inflict stress damage on their allies or horror on their allies. Keep in mind also, if you have a class in mind that has high stun resistance, that basically means that focus here will be maximized at its potential. So those are things to keep in mind when building a party for her. She is definitely DPS, and she's riposte. She's perfectly capable to force a guard off of. So if you want to bring someone who forces guard, if that's worth it for your turn with an antiquarian, for example, or with Philomath, she's very good at that. And her riposte is pretty potent. Let's see. Quirks to keep in mind, and some of these are definitely worth locking, like on First Sight. Slugger and Precise Striker are very good because all of her attacks are melee, and so getting a higher crit and damage off of those is quite beneficial. Luminous, as always, because she's going to be riposting. The more often she can dodge and riposte, the better you're off. And especially if she's guarding somebody. Twilight Dreamer, I love falling on her, and it happened to land on this one early, and so thus this quickly became my only Senua of the save file. Just because her abilities her actual skills don't bypass stealth, but she can remove it when she riposts. That's typically how she would kill stealthed enemies. It's also how she reaches the back ranks, which she cannot do by default. But if she also has Twilight Dreamer, then no stealthed enemy is safe. So even if they didn't attack her, she can remove stealth or kill it before it's actually important. Trinket mentions... I have a couple on her of her custom trinkets. But another one to mention is, like I said before, things that increase the virtue chance are actually pretty good on her, because if you're utilizing her and trying to maximize her damage output, it's quite the balancing act to try and keep her 60% to 80% stressed, but not hitting an affliction chance. So there is a chance she's going to have that affliction test, and the more often than not that you can get a virtue instead, the more benefited you are. So that ring I forget the name of that increases virtue chance by 25%. That's a good call. I frequently run her with Ancestor's Tentacle Idol because having that virtue bonus and having a Deathblow bonus is quite beneficial. As far as her custom trinkets, the ones I would recommend is either Bag of Runes. It's a rare trinket. It'll add 8 to her dodge, which is not too shabby. It's not the best, but it's not too shabby. But it'll also add 16% to her scouting chance, and it will subtract 24% from the nighttime ambush chance, which is somewhere in the range of 30 to 40% by default. I could be mistaken. So basically taking more than half of the chance that the nighttime ambush happens away is incredibly beneficial, especially if you don't have someone in your party that will flat out protect from being ambushed. Sigurd's Head is a very rare trinket for her. It adds 15% to her damage, 2% to the speed, and the only negative is negative 15% bleed resistance. This is very similar as far as power level to the Berserk Charm, but its negative is vastly less. So unless you have a better damage trinket in mind for her, or unless you don't want to run her with a damage trinket, this is really good. It's not increasing the stress damage she takes. Bleed resistance, something it's easy to bounce back from that as a negative, so it's a very good trinket. I have to recommend it. But I think probably her most utility and best trinket has got to be Dillion's Head, the head of her dead love. It looks pretty straightforward, But you have to keep in mind the way this reads. At 75% stress and every 25% stress beyond that, up to 175, she will take progressively less stress damage when she hits those thresholds. At first, it's only negative 20% stress, which is still pretty significant. But at max, it will be a negative 70% stress incoming. Couple this with the fact that if you virtue on that first stress test, you're not even going to hit heart attack when it does get to 200. You're just going to reset. This is immense if you have a virtue build. If you have trinkets on her that are maximizing that, if you've used Lover's Comfort to maximize that, she can be really, really good as far as longevity. And she's basically, if she's guarding somebody, she's going to take a lot of stress damage just because she's going to take more attacks incoming. So this is a really good limiter, and depending on how you build and kit her, it can be really good to protect your whole party, honestly. So that is, I believe, all of the actual notes that I have on her. We're going to run into a dungeon. I don't know that I've chosen a dungeon. I believe, even though she's level 2, the rest of the party can carry her through a mid-level dungeon. One of these two. I do not have this trinket. Might as well take this one. I don't want to run into that. Let's see, there's no shuffle thing going on here. I will bring stab instead of wild strike. Alright. So let's get the show on the road.
I knew all these paths once. Now they are as twisted as my own ambitions.
Alright. We're gonna go with the standard 3 combats. I may, change that up if I don't find it's fitting this time around, but good rule of thumb.
Darkness closes in, haunting the hearts of men.
Now, the theory behind this grouping here is, she is able to target stealthed enemies. So is Senua because of Twilight Dreamer. And she's, if I were to equip this one, she could also de-stealth, a lot like Senua's going to be doing. But this trinket here is also going to give me plus 100% crit versus stealth enemies. So I'm going to be one-shotting a lot of things after using Headcase. Who is the one for this? It's got to be you. And of course, she's going to be forcing guard on Senua to divert a lot of attention. I didn't grab that in time. Ooh, I still got the surprise, though. I love it.
In Radiance, may we find victory.
Okay. I forgot I couldn't do that from the front. That was a mistake on my part. Alright, well, let's just hit a stun and see what happens. What didn't mention in her ability is that is a free ability. She gets another turn after that, which is intense. It's not in her tooltips. I can't remember if it was in her tooltips before the latest updates. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna grab you. I'm gonna get as much damage on this asshole as I can. I don't want to get smacked by a tree if I can avoid it. Alright, Confusion Spores it is. I'm okay with this. Okay, the 70% riposte did not trigger. Unfortunate as that is. It happens. Percent chance is a thing that can screw you over in Chihuahua. So let's There we go. The 50% hit me that time. There's also a lot of blocks on this team, which I love, so that's nice. Okay. We've got a guy who's not fully healed over here. Let's regen heal him for the future. Do not hit him with a tree. Her with a tree, excuse me.
A devastating blow.
That's what I thought. Now, another thing that works well with Senua is if you have even a party member who debuffs you massively but gives you free, like a double turn. A good combination for that situation is definitely head case and then an attack to try and get that riposte. Because head case, hitting the stress, diverting all attacks to her unless they can hit stealthed enemies, and then being able to bypass and auto crit
Annihilated.
is pretty impressive. It's a good way to build a team in that regard. Normally, I would not have an extra healer. I would trust that the Eternal will be enough, especially at high levels. The low level Eternal is a little risky to be solo, but C14 is not bad. The stress ramp is going to be just fine. Here, let's
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
But the de-stealthing in this party is something to behold. I'm gonna let this horror unfold because I want her to be above 40 stress. So we're just gonna let it happen.
Darkness holds much worse than mere trickery.
I actually don't even know why I bought these. I didn't need to worry about the funds, so not an actual question, but I don't know why I chose it. Hey, let's get rid of that blight though. Alright.
The match is struck.
Combat 2, the Jester. I have recent memories of this asshole killing one of my fucking party members.
Executed with impunity.
Yeah, because if he's gonna drive you insane and bring you down to death's door,
and purpose is made
that's an
clear.
asshole move. Okay, let's do this. Let's try and get a free stun on some guys. Got one of them. Then I'm going to stab. I can only reach the front two, so let's hope the riposte triggers. There it is. Set up a block, and I think I'm covered. Let's see. You know, just for future shits and giggles, let's put some damage on you.
Precision and power. These blocks are coming in mighty handy. How dare you? Oh no! You're abusive. Frustration and fury. More destructive than
I believe there's a
100
max of blocks. That's 2. So I believe it won't go over that. Yeah.
Uncertainty.
Now I know. You can only have 2 blocks at a time. Ever. It is official. This cannot continue. I'm pretty sure you got this handled. Let's transfer to you. That's the only benefit of having such a low HP stat, is being able to cure it so fucking fast. Why not? There's nothing else you can do right now. Why not? I did remove that fucking horror, which was not exactly the best move, but it works.
Give them no quarter.
The auto crit on her right now for stealth enemies is something to behold.
This expedition.
Alright, bright tambourine. I've got plenty of these. I don't need this shit. So it's really only here for the gold it's worth me? But even then, I don't need that either. Alright, on way to the third battle. It's gonna bug me. These guys are not in a good order. So she can use good moves on turn 1. Hi, puppers. I've already got rabies on her, so I don't really need it. So let's just go for a kill. Got my 2 Aegis on her. Let's try and stun. Haha, see, I got most of my party stunned that time too, so could have been better. And yes, currently, I don't know if it's just my own version or if anyone else is having that problem. Currently, Senua's sounds again aren't working. They used to. I'm not sure if that's something that changed in the later updates or if it's something that is continually being worked on. Hey. Me no likey that. Give me all the stress damage, damn it. Oh. Did not hit, thus no stress removal. So we have to go for a... I would normally go for a kill here, but I'm actually gonna begin the healing. I've got a long dungeon ahead of me after I'm done with this video, so let's get a head start on the stress healing. Might as well. Ooh, wow. Rabies and dodgy dogs combining together to be something quite problematic. Countered. Alright. Now I've got a target. Another party member she works good with is the Thorn. Because the Thorn, most of her attacks can target stealthed enemies. And obviously, if you're not using head case, you don't need to worry about that. But I find that head case is a very utility move to keep. And it's well worth it, in my mind, to kind of negate stress damage to other foes through the form of horror, and to stack it on her, which is the benefit. And it is probably worth mentioning as well, now that we're out of combat here, let me, I should have used them before that. Whatever. Yeah, Scout. If you don't have somebody in your party, like the Philomath, for example, who inflicts horror, stress over time on allies, then it is also worth it as a stress ramping tool to use this combo. Because you can Facetime on turn 1. It will inflict horror on everybody. They will take a turn of that horror damage, but then you can pull that horror onto herself alone, and for the next 2 turns, she will take 9% stress damage. Because they will all have moved. So it is worth it to ramp that way. I find it is faster to have someone else doing the ramping for you, and on that first turn, using head case. But if you're not even going to play the, damage ramping game of stress, don't even worry about it. But I find this kit works out pretty well. Well, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, like the video. It helps tremendously. I want to thank you guys. You guys have reached me over 100 subscribers, and together that is, honestly, it's a milestone I didn't think I would get to, and I also, I mean, it didn't seem like a lot, but as a creator, it really is. It means there's, people listening, which it's not something to be taken for granted. So I appreciate that. So hit subscribe if you want to join the community, and feel free to leave me comments or suggestions on what classes to cover in the future. There's going to be another Let's Play on Wednesday, and Saturday there will be another like Straturday video, but I think it might be a week of something else, talking about tactics or team compositions. So if you have a team comp you want to suggest for me to cover, maybe I'll cover that. But it might be a week off from the guides because I have just downloaded some more that I'm hoping to learn a little bit about how to use so I can cover them adequately. So thanks for watching. Stay frosty.